Have you ever caught a man saying something that feels gentle, maybe even sweet, yet leaves a faint knot in your stomach? Sometimes, it's not the words themselves, but the hidden intentions they expose, stirring a quiet sense of discomfort. Certain phrases, though they seem innocent, can hint at deeper issues like denial, manipulation, or a refusal to mature emotionally. If you don't stay alert, these subtle moments can draw you into connections that erode your self-assurance and distance you from your true self over time. Carl Jung described the shadow as the concealed aspects of our psyche we avoid confronting, often buried deep within us. In relationships, these shadows emerge through unconscious habits or emotional projections that shape how we interact. Noticing specific phrases isn't about jumping to conclusions. It's about safeguarding your mental clarity and emotional health. Today, we'll explore 5 phrases that should set off alarm bells, especially early in a relationship, signaling not just a caution, but possibly a reason to step away. Let's get started with the first phrase. You have to accept me as I am. 1. When authenticity masks avoidance. What might seem like a plea for genuine acceptance can often hide a reluctance to face personal flaws. When a man uses this phrase to brush off legitimate concerns, he's not seeking your understanding. He's insisting on a free pass from responsibility. Jung taught that true growth begins when we confront our shadow, those uncomfortable traits we'd rather ignore. This phrase often surfaces after patterns like emotional distance, sidestepping issues, or passive-aggressive behavior become noticeable, and instead of addressing them, he shifts the burden onto you to adapt. Being authentic doesn't mean clinging to stagnation. It's about finding the bravery to grow and evolve. Stoic philosophy teaches that our character shines not in defending our shortcomings, but in striving to overcome them. A woman dedicated to her own growth cannot bear the weight of a partner who refuses to join her on that journey. When someone demands you accept them exactly as they are, while dismissing any need for self-reflection, they're not asking for love. They're seeking permission to remain unchanged, often at the cost of your well-being. This attitude isn't rooted in self-acceptance, but in self-preservation, using the guise of vulnerability to silence important discussions. Over time, this dynamic forces you to suppress your instincts, downplay your needs, and absorb blame for wanting a healthier bond. Jung stressed that embracing the shadow, those painful truths we avoid, is what leads to wholeness. A partner who can't face their shadow isn't living authentically. They're guarding their wounds. A relationship built on defensiveness, rather than mutual reflection, becomes a subtle trap where growth is discouraged and stagnation is dressed up as stability. 2. The warning sign of projection. When a man claims every ex was unhinged or toxic, it might initially feel like he's opening up, but it's rarely a genuine moment of vulnerability. Labeling all past partners as unstable isn't a heartfelt admission. It's a carefully crafted story that shifts blame away from him. Carl Jung cautioned that what we don't bring into awareness shapes our destiny, and a man trapped in this narrative isn't examining his own role in those relationships. Instead, he's dodging self-reflection by painting himself as the perpetual victim, projecting his flaws onto others. What's even more troubling is the unspoken assumption that you'll be the exception, the one who's different. But someone who hasn't unpacked their past is bound to repeat the same patterns, and the moment you challenge his carefully curated illusions, you risk being cast as the next crazy. Real personal growth hinges on taking responsibility for one's actions, not sidestepping it. Without that accountability, you're not entering a partnership. You're stepping into a script he rewrites to shield himself from facing his own shortcomings. This mindset creates subtle but heavy pressure to outshine the women before you, to prove your worth by avoiding the reactions he claims to resent. But that's a setup for failure, because when someone hasn't done the work to understand their own patterns, even the healthiest relationship can be distorted to fit their familiar narrative of dysfunction. You're not starting fresh with him. You're walking into a Puritan role as the next emotional scapegoat, a part he's already rehearsed and is ready to cast. Jung saw projection as more than a defense mechanism. It's a refusal to grow and evolve. A man who speaks of all his exes with contempt reveals far more about his lack of self-awareness and about the women themselves. If he can't own his role in past relationships, those unexamined patterns will inevitably seep into the present, tainting what could have been a fresh start. A woman who values her growth doesn't step into a relationship to fix someone's history. She joins to create a shared future. That future can only thrive with a partner who acknowledges and takes responsibility for the patterns they carry. 3. Love as a tool for control. When a man says something like, "If you really loved me, you'd do what I ask," it's not a simple expression of desire. It's a calculated condition. This phrase turns love into a test, wielding guilt as a subtle weapon to enforce compliance. Jung pointed out that manipulation often cloaks itself in the guise of care, making it hard to spot at first. The Stoics emphasized that true love is grounded in freedom, not in fear or coercion. Agreeing to these demands doesn't foster closeness. It cultivates a dynamic of submission that can erode your sense of self. What starts as a seemingly small request can snowball into a pattern of self-betrayal, where you sacrifice your needs to meet escalating expectations. A woman attuned to her own growth can distinguish between a sincere ask and a disguised demand. Genuine love respects your boundaries, never demanding you erase them in the name of devotion. When someone ties love to obedience, they're not seeking true intimacy. They're chasing control. The relationship becomes a stage where affection is contingent on how well you meet their needs, and your value is judged by your willingness to comply. The danger lies in how gradually this unfolds. Each time you give in, the demands shift, and soon you're acting not out of love, but from fear of letting them down or losing the connection. Over time, this chips away at your inner clarity, leaving you questioning your instincts, mistaking sacrifice for partnership, and shrinking your sense of self just to keep the peace. True love doesn't demand that you diminish yourself to maintain harmony. As Jung and the Stoics both taught, the strongest connections are built on mutual respect, personal autonomy, and the freedom to remain true to yourself, even when that means setting boundaries or saying no. 4. The sting of diminishment. When a man says something like, "You're not enough for me," it's a direct blow, not a mere observation. The psychology of erosion. Words like, "You're not enough," wound not because they hold truth, but because they're designed to make you question your own value. This isn't a moment of raw honesty. It's a projection of someone else's insecurities aimed at undermining you. When a man says this, he's not seeing you for who you are. He's exposing his own inner emptiness, using criticism as a tool to dominate. Marcus Aurelius wisely advised that you should never let another person's soul overpower your own sense of self. Such a phrase chips away at your confidence over time, pushing you to overcompensate, to chase approval that's never truly offered. Your purpose isn't to audition for someone's validation. A woman rooted in awareness refuses to shrink to fit a distorted reflection of herself. The real harm comes from how insidiously these words burrow into your mind, subtly urging you to prove your worth by giving more, sacrificing pieces of your identity. But this isn't about building love. It's about surviving a standard that shifts endlessly, one you can never meet. The goalpost keeps moving, not because you're lacking, but because his own inner instability demands it. Jung explained that projection arises when someone can't face their own sense of inadequacy, so they deflect it, making others feel small to avoid their own discomfort. You weren't created to shoulder someone else's self-doubt. Your worth is not a debate to be won. A woman grounded in self-respect knows that being enough for someone else isn't the point. The real question is whether this person aligns with the life she's crafting. Before moving to the final phrases, I hope these insights are sparking some clarity for you. If you're finding this helpful, consider sharing it with others who might appreciate these perspectives. To support our channel's mission, you can click the thanks button below this video. Your generosity keeps this work going. Now let's move forward. 5. Control masquerading as freedom. When a man says, "Do whatever you want," with a cold or sarcastic edge, it's not an invitation. It's a carefully laid trap. This phrase pushes you into a cycle of doubt, making you question your choices and second-guess your actions. Jung described this as shadow manipulation, a tactic that uses vague communication to maintain emotional dominance without accountability. The Stoics valued straightforward words that don't require decoding, urging clarity over confusion. This approach muddies open conversation, pulling you away from your own truth and forcing you to navigate his shifting moods instead. The solution is simple but powerful. Take his words at face value, acting without guilt or overthinking. A woman who prioritizes clarity over deciphering hidden meanings dismantles this manipulative game entirely. She chooses to step away rather than play along. Passive aggression is a subtle form of emotional avoidance, withholding honest expression while quietly punishing you for not following unspoken rules. In this dynamic, the underlying message is clear. You're expected to manage his emotions without him ever stating what he truly feels. Over time, this trains you to tread lightly, anticipating his reactions instead of staying grounded in your own sense of self. Gradually, honesty becomes risky, and silence becomes a way to survive. But a woman who values her awareness knows that ambiguity is a tool for control, not a foundation for connection. True intimacy grows from mutual openness, not from navigating cryptic words or tense silences. By refusing to engage with veiled language or emotionally charged pauses, she safeguards her inner peace. As Jung and the Stoics would affirm, true calm comes from aligning with what honors your truth, even if that means walking away from someone who hides behind unclear intentions. The power of discernment. These phrases might seem harmless, even commonplace, but beneath their simplicity lies something far more damaging: emotional avoidance, projection, and a subtle dismantling of your inner voice. As Carl Jung and the Stoics pointed out, the greatest threats aren't always bold or obvious. They're quiet, lurking in tones, patterns, and unspoken motives. You're not here to pull someone out of the self-work they refuse to face, nor to diminish yourself to prove your worth or settle for less. Your purpose is to live with clarity, to love with authenticity, and to walk alongside someone as dedicated to growth as you are. That's the standard, and upholding it isn't rigid. It's the essence of self-respect. True strength isn't about winning debates or fixing broken patterns. It's about recognizing when your peace is too costly and choosing to step away with dignity. What you permit sets the tone for how others treat you. So choose with intention and lead by example. If these ideas struck a chord, share in the comments any phrases you've heard that made you pause and rethink everything. To dive deeper into self-awareness, emotional clarity, and psychological wisdom, consider subscribing to Healthy Mind. This is a space for thoughtful minds, and you're meant to be here. Stay clear, stay resilient, and above all, stay true to yourself.